Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 127, Little Bighorn. The episode begins with Ash and the gang making their way through a park so that they can get to the next destination, being a city, when they spot some movement in some bushes, followed by some antlers appearing. Although, since the antlers have little black dots on them, Ash mistakes these antlers for a pair of eyes. He soon realizes they were antlers when the Pokemon comes out and reveals its true head. Brock is able to identify it as a Pokemon called Stantler, and Ash uses his Pokedex to get more information on it. The Pokedex tells him that Stantler's eye-like shapes at the base of its horns produce a pleasant odor, and it has a bewildering effect on anyone who smells it. It can also create startling realistic illusions by shaking its horns. Perhaps some foreshadowing? Anyways, Brock sees the Stantler, it seems a little agitated, and also notices that it's a baby, so he tries to lure it out by doing a whole bunch of poses and movements that Stantler were known for, such as scratching his head with his leg, getting down on all fours, and resting his back up against a tree. Misty and Ash are embarrassed by this, as Brock was just fucking making a fool of himself. But then, when Brock gets close enough to the baby Stantler, he realizes that it has an injured leg. Unable to get close enough to treat it just by doing these weird-ass Stantler movements, Brock decides to implement a plan B, which is giving the Stantler some food. However, as he tries to give it to him, the Stantler panics and begins to release a scent from its antlers that Ash and the gang very much find appealing. However, this scent resulted in the baby Stantler having called a whole horde of other Stantlers in order to scare off Ash and the gang. So, this horde of Stantlers immediately chase after Ash and the gang, stampeding after them, causing Ash and the gang to run away as fast as they can. Eventually, Ash and the gang are able to outrun the Stantler, and when they look back, they realize that the Stantler are nowhere to be found, aside from the baby Stantler that could still be seen from behind, but it soon retreated away into the bushes before Ash and the gang could follow it. As Ash and the gang continue walking through the park, they eventually see more bushes rustle around, and they hoped that it was the baby Stantler, perhaps making its way back to them, but no, instead, it was Officer Jenny. Brock was just not, if even more happy at this result though, as he tried his best to flirt with Officer Jenny as usual, being the simp that he was, but he gets rejected. When Ash and Misty explained to Officer Jenny that they had been looking for a Stantler, Officer Jenny immediately invites them to her police office so that they could file a report, stating that she wanted as much information on the Stantler as possible. As for Brock, he hadn't taken the hint that he had been rejected yet, so he assumes that Officer Jenny was inviting them to the station so that they could have their first date there, admitting that the police station seemed like a weird place for a first date. Yeah, I wonder why, bitch. As Ash and the gang tell Officer Jenny at the station about their encounter with the Stantler, Jenny reveals that the Stantler had been terrorizing a whole bunch of people in the park, adding that it was the whole horde, not just the baby that they encountered. Brock remarks how unusual that is, though, as Stantler were known for living in the mountains, not in parks, so why would there just suddenly be an entire horde of Stantler around a park? Brock's thoughts are interrupted as they hear screaming outside the station, causing Ash and the gang to run outside and spot none other than Team Rocket, who were running away. They instantly do their motto and explain that they were running from a herd of Stantler that had been chasing them from the park, adding that they were originally going to the park to capture all the Stantler, but all that they saw was the same baby one that Ash and the gang did, before suddenly the rest of the herd appeared and started to chase them. Team Rocket then looked behind them and realized that they looked like crazy people because they just said that they were running from a herd of Stantler, and now the herd of Stantler was nowhere to be found. They had strangely disappeared, just like before. As Ash and the gang and Team Rocket talk about how they had a shared experience of the Stantler herd disappearing, unbeknownst to them, the baby Stantler appears behind a building yet again and releases the same scent, causing the whole horde of Antler to appear down the street and the stampede to begin again as the Stantler go after Ash and the gang and Team Rocket. Team Rocket instantly run away as Officer Jenny commands Ash and Misty to get to safety inside the police station. Ash yells for Brock to join them, but he refuses, wanting to find out the secret behind these suddenly appearing and disappearing Stantler. As they fast approach him, he notices them running right through light poles and walls on the way, without causing any damage to them whatsoever. Brock continues to stand unmoving as the Stantler reach him and walk right into him, leading Ash and Misty to scream in horror, thinking that Brock just got fucking run over and died. However, Brock was entirely okay, as just as the Stantler had run right through the walls and light posts, they had run right through him. This confuses Ash and Misty, and they're even more confused as the herd of Stantler suddenly disappears yet again, leaving just the baby Stantler in its place, revealing that all of the other Stantler were just an illusion conjured up by the baby, explaining why they were all able to suddenly disappear, as the baby Stantler could just make them appear and disappear at will. Brock realizes that the Stantler must have been creating these illusions because it was injured and frightened, and goes up to it and tells it that it would do its best to heal its leg wound that it had. Brock proceeds to take the Stantler into the police station and use some of the supplies there to bandage up the Stantler's leg wound, while explaining to Ash and the gang how the Stantler probably created all of those illusions because it was intimidated by both it and Team Rocket, and therefore wanted to create a horde to defend itself. And also explains how he found out about the illusions due to the Stantler running through buildings and walls. When Brock finishes healing Stantler's leg, it looks at him in immense gratitude and begins to get very comfortable around him, falling asleep inside his lap. Ash suggests taking the opportunity to capture the Stantler and make it Brock's new Pokemon, but Brock argues that the Stantler was probably initially frightened because it got separated from the rest of its real herd, and declares that he was going to return Stantler back to that herd. He was hoping that doing something this admirable would impress Officer Jenny, but Misty drags him off as Officer Jenny rejects him once again. Meanwhile, Team Rocket was spying on Ash and the gang in their Meowth balloon, this time using a periscope so they could hear everything they were saying. Meowth overheard that there was only one Stantler, being the baby Stantler, and that pissed him the fuck off. as they were hoping to be able to catch an entire herd of Stantler. This, however, just makes them more determined to capture the singular Stantler as revenge for it playing a trick on them. James comes up with an idea to catch the Stantler, but adds that there was a catch. It was going to cost all of Team Rocket's remaining cash. This causes Meowth and Jessie to instantly be against James' idea, but James argues back that they'll get all the money that they need if they're able to successfully capture the Stantler and give it to Giovanni, which he assures they will definitely be able to do with the thing he had bought. Meanwhile, Ash and the gang had decided to spend the night with Stantler at the police station while it got fully healed, but when morning arrived, Brock, Misty, and Ash took it out to the forest, and Brock demanded that it go away and go back to his mother. However, due to the baby Stantler spending so much time with Brock, it was now extremely attached to him and refused to go, as it nudged up against him. This leads Brock to angrily yell at the Stantler to go the fuck away, to scare it off, even though he obviously didn't want to do so, because he had grown attached to the Stantler as well, but he knew it was the only way to get the Stantler scared enough to go back to its family. Sure enough, it was, and the Stantler walked away into the woods, believing that Brock didn't like it anymore. Meanwhile, Team Rocket was in their Meowth balloon, and they had spotted the baby Stantler, now all by itself, walking in the woods. It was their time to strike. Unbeknownst to them, though, while they had spotted the baby Stantler, Ash and the gang had spotted their balloon up in the sky. Knowing that they were probably going to catch the Stantler, Brock ran ahead to try and save it, with Ash and Misty following. However, they were too late, as Team Rocket had already put their new plan into action, utilizing James' new machine, known as the Anti-Stantler No. 7, being an oversized orange mechanical Stantler, which James could activate with the press of a button on a remote. He does so, and the robotic Stantler fires a huge-ass net from its mouth, which lands on the baby Stantler, capturing it. Fortunately for Ash and the gang, as Team Rocket then go down from their balloon to retrieve the captured Stantler, when Meowth hears the Stantler's cries for help, it begins to feel bad for it, and starts crying himself. This leads Jessie and James to get mad, as they remind him that they were supposed to be capturing it, and this causes them to get distracted, as they reprimand Meowth, which allows Brock to run up to them. However, before Brock can rescue the Stantler, he is stopped by James using his machine yet again, as he has it release a whole bunch of spears that block Brock's way. Team Rocket take the opportunity to grab the Stantler and hop in their Meowth balloon, but before it can get too far, Brock sends out his Onyx and has it use Tackle on James's machine, followed by a Bind attack, which crushes the machine, destroying it. Damn, I guess there goes all Team Rocket's funds. With the machine destroyed, this also renders its spears useless, allowing Brock, along with Ash and Misty, who had now caught up to him by this point, to go chasing after the Meowth balloon. Ash orders Pikachu to use Thunderbolt in an attempt to knock the balloon down, but it was already too high up, so the Thunderbolt couldn't reach. Much to Team Rocket's joy, as they continue their escape, and Ash and the gang are simply forced to keep chasing after them, as Brock notices the Stantler in the net, absolutely devastated and crying at this point. In a Deus Ex Machina moment, these cries of the baby Stantler were loud enough to alert a real adult Stantler to come to its aid. It arrived from a nearby mountain ledge, and then jumped to the hot air balloon with immense speed, cutting the hot air balloon in half, and cutting open the baby Stantler's net. Although Stantler was now free, it was falling to the ground. So, Ash sent out his Bulbasaur and had it use Vine Whip in an attempt to catch the Stantler, but it was too heavy for the little vines to keep hold of, so the vines failed, and the Stantler kept falling to the ground. Fortunately, right as it was about to make contact with the dirt, Brock swooped in, and in a lucky catch, was able to save the Stantler. Deus Ex Machina moment if I've ever seen one. As for the Meowth balloon, it had also crashed down, crashing into the forest and becoming entangled in trees. To make matters worse for Team Rocket, as they climb out of the remains of their balloon, they're confronted by not only the one adult Stantler from earlier, but its entire herd, which reveals that this adult Stantler that saved the baby was its mother, and the rest of these Stantler were the rest of its herd, and they had come to its aid. Yay! Team Rocket aren't scared of the herd of Stantler whatsoever, as they believe it was simply another illusion conjured up by the baby. So, to test this theory, James throws his now useless remote control at one of the Stantler, expecting it to phase right through it. However, it doesn't, and the real Stantler proceeds to crush it with its hoof. Team Rocket panic as the Stantler stampede them successfully this time, sending them blasting off. The episode then ends with the Stantler herd, including the baby Stantler's mother, reuniting with the baby Stantler as they all walk off back to their home in the mountains as Ash and the gang say goodbye.